Hello everybody and welcome to a video where Bryn, Travis, and I are going to rank all of the card games we've played on tiermaker.com. I can't speak for them, but I'm going to assume that, like me, they have been playing card games for the majority of their life. Is that a fair assumption?
I'm 26, and I started playing Pokemon as my first card game when I was 7.
So I would say that is the majority of your life.
6 or 7, it would be, yes.
Yeah, no. I'm I'm in a pretty similar boat. I'm nearly 30 now, and I've been playing since I was probably like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, pretty much the exact same for me, but I'm nearing 31, so it's what was your guys' first card games? Like your first 3? Because my first 3 were actually these first 3 on the list. Those are my first 3 card games.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that Harry Potter one I briefly played before Magic. Because I remember when I was playing that, I didn't play it for very long, but I played it back at my dad would drive me to a city just outside of Edmonton, about an hour every Saturday to go play in my Pokemon League.
Sick, that's
and then
sick.
They were demoing it there, and I got into it for a little while, but
I remember.
So I think it's like the Harry Potter one, Pokemon, and YuGiOh for me, and then Magic was the third one I really got into.
For me, the biggest moment of I was in grade 7 when a card shop moved into the mall that was walking distance from my house, and ever since then, it I was playing them before, but I was like buying Pokemon and Magic the Gathering at 7-Eleven, so having an actual card shop with tournaments within walking distance was pretty exciting for me when I was a kid.
Yeah, sounds pretty baller.
Yeah. So we're gonna be we'll talk about each one of these. We've not all of us have played all of these. These are just like games that we have played. This is from Travis's list, so Bryn, if there's anything you've played that I don't have on the list, I'm sorry. But we're gonna talk about them all briefly where we can, and we're gonna kind of see how we feel about them, talking about like mechanics, as Travis says, where we view the game, how much fun we had with it. There's a lot of different reasons for where we think these games should go. So why don't we start with the big daddy of trading card games, which is Magic the Gathering. We had a little bit of a talk before, and I think, spoiler alert, we're going to end up putting it here.
Yeah, like Magic's it's a game of very high pedigree that has been somewhat spoiled in the last couple of years, as many players would probably attest to. But it's a good game, don't get me wrong, it's a great game even. But it's not the best game I've ever played, I don't think. And a lot of the pedigree that it has comes from just how long it's been around.
Yeah. I like Magic. Limited Magic is my favorite way to play Magic. But I think there's a lot of hurdles now that make Magic the Gathering a bit harder for me personally to play. But there's like that kind of thing where you never really, once you play Magic, you never really stop playing Magic, right? Because my first pack was in Urza's Saga, and then in Legions I stopped, and then I started again in Khans of Tarkir, and I'm kind of in my waning phase of Magic right now. So yeah. I'm not as high as I would have been at 2014 when I was playing with Patrick and you guys at the store.
Yeah. No, I'm in a pretty similar position. I haven't touched my Magic. I mean, I haven't been able to play Magic for the past couple months, so it kind of doesn't count, I guess. But
yeah,
still probably wouldn't have been as into it as I used to be.
I think the great thing with Magic, which we're going to get to when especially I have words about Magic Arena, is the thing that makes Magic so good is there's so many ways to play Magic that there's kind of something for everybody in Magic, which I think is really awesome, right?
I actually think that one of the biggest things that Magic has going for it is its rules, and also the stack. The stack used to be and still is a huge development in card playing games.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, the stack is simply the way that so cards can resolve at different speeds. There's like instants, which are faster. You can play them like kind of at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like sorcery speed effects, which are kind of like Hearthstone, where you just do things during your turn, basically.
Yeah.
The instants and other abilities are the way that you interact during other people's turns. And when multiple people have, or you have multiple instant speed effects that you want to do at the same time, then the stack determines how they end up working.
This,
and then their rules is like 400 pages long, 500 pages long, and it's like is written by lawyers. So there's no ambiguity in the rules ever at all.
Yeah, no matter what situation you come across with, like, you know, the 25,000 different unique cards there are in the game, no matter which set of them are trying to work in whatever way right now, there are rules that cover that exact situation.
Yeah, and I think
and tell you what to do.
Too, with Magic that it has over other card games, like there's some interactions in Arkham Horror, the card game, that they don't read as obvious, and like there's very few rules in Magic, like unless you get to the weird fringe cases that aren't easy to understand, or you can like quickly comprehend why the rule is that way. Yeah, and like the thing about
having things be when we complain about certain rulings being unintuitive. A big part of that comes from Magic, where they go out of their way to make things work the way that you would expect them to.
And like the stack is so ubiquitous, as Travis said, that like you're gonna see just people who play Magic are going to use the stack in other games to solve problems because it is so good. But
yeah, like if we struggle with the timing and how cards work in a certain game, sometimes we'll just be like, use a stack.
Last in,
like
first out,
Box Monster, I guess, is actually technically a card game that didn't make this list, but I think it's more of a board game.
Yeah.
Anyway, that one we never really liked the way that the spells interacted in that one, so we just used a stack and it made the game better.
Which one's that?
Box Monster.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That makes sense. YuGiOh. I've played a lot of YuGiOh when I was 7-8 in that card shop. YuGiOh was my life. I remember when Joey Wheeler lost to Yugi because his Time Wizard turned Baby Dragon, but it also turned Dark Magician into a Super Magician. My heart broke that day. I do think Yugi is worse than Magic, though.
I agree. I think that YuGiOh had like an interesting issue with their resource system, where like, you know, Pokemon has energy, Magic has mana and lands, Legend of the Five Rings has fate, Arkham has resources, but in Yu-Gi-Oh, the only resource you really have is your cards. And I think they have like a really creative way of dealing with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Between the tribute summons and then ritual summons, succeed summons, synchros, links, a bunch of other garbage you probably never heard of. I was really into Yu-Gi-Oh like 2 or 3 years ago, so I know a little bit about it. But yeah, like not having a proper resource system for this one, really, when things are busted, they're like busted.
They're busted, yeah. I know it's a different version, but there's that Yu-Gi-Oh! Dual Links or whatever it is, the phone game, and like, because exactly that, there's no resource system, you can just, like, things happen, man, and you just watch them happen, and you're like, how is this happening? I don't know, but it's by the rules, so let's go.
Time to die.
Like when you look at when you look at competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of this is like a pretty gross oversimplification, but a lot of games at a very base level are whoever goes first is just trying to set up enough negation effects because you're not allowed to attack on the first turn. They're just trying to set up a big wall of negation effects and prevention things to stop their opponent from developing their board. Whereas whoever is going second is just doing everything they can to break through those.
It's kind of like, yeah, it seems...
And you're just kind of, like, you're just working to come up with a bigger board state on the other side.
Yeah. But I'm
all
happy
in all,
with
it's
it here.
definitely not a bad game. I think B is a good place for it. I think that their archetype system that they've developed
is cool.
Really ingenious, and it lends a lot of casual appeal to the game, where you're like, oh yeah, where you can sort of identify with an archetype, and that's your deck.
Yeah. I've played a little bit of Pokemon. I didn't play much of the card game. I played the digital game, which is just like is it pretty close to 1-to-1, Travis?
It's exactly the same.
Dude, I think it's pretty fun. I don't know where I'd put it. I kind of like...
I would put Pokemon in A tier below Magic, personally.
I think it's
actually a really good game.
It is really fun, and it's also very accessible. Like, Mike from Playing Board Games, he doesn't play a lot of card games, but he plays Pokemon, and he's really good at Pokemon. He's not great at other card games, but he's, like, killer at Pokemon. And I think just because it is pretty... Like, it's like... The decisions you make are easy to grok, but there's still a lot of depth that you can come within those decisions, which I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah, so there's 3 big points about Pokemon that I think are important to make. One of them is a positive, and 2 are negatives. One of them is that when you're making a game of Pokemon, where you need, so like there's like the evolution chains, right, where you have Charmander, and then you have to play your Charmander, and then you wait a turn, then you can evolve Charmeleon, then you gotta wait another turn, then you can evolve a Charizard, right? Mm-hmm. You also have to, if you draw a Charizard card, you don't have Charmeleon play, like, shit, right?
Yeah.
And they've gotten around this by just including absolutely insane draw power into the game. Where there's cards that are just like, shelf your hand back in your deck, no matter how many cards it is, and draw 6 more cards. Mm-hmm. 6 new cards. Like, you're like, yeah. There's a card in one of the, I think it's called Expanded, where it's just like, you play it, and you discard 2 cards from your hand, and you can just search your deck for any card.
Seems
there's
good.
Cards that just, you play them, get energy back from your discard. There's so much searching and draw power in the game. It makes it... Well, the evolution stuff feels like it might be restrictive. It's actually very accessible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
At the point when I stopped playing the game, there was the best card in the game was a Pidgeotto that let you look through your deck once per turn, just for a card, and put it into your hand.
That's unthinkable.
Yeah, there was that, and there was a Furret that had an attack that let you take 3 cards from your hand, shuffle them back into your deck, and search your deck for 3 cards and put them into your hand. It was just like, what the hell? Like, I can play the most obtuse one-ups in my deck and just find them every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, like there's just so many toolbox cards. There's one that I actually played with a lot called like Hoopa EX, I think it is. And EX is just like a class of Pokemon. And when you play it from your hand, you can just search your deck for any number of Pokemon EXs and add them to your hand.
But as you said,
it's up to 3. Up to 3.
But as you said, this is very important to hit those, to get your evolutions going, right? Like, you need to be able to find the stuff you need in order to play the game.
Yeah, and the big negatives I have with this game, though, that keep it from being above Magic, and potentially even in the S tier, is the lack of interaction on your opponent's turn, which on one hand is kind of nice, where you don't have to pay attention to everything your opponent's doing, and they just kind of get to do their turn, and you sit there and you wait for your turn. It's fine. I would prefer like a little bit more interaction, like sort of maybe like trap or even like prison cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like when your opponent would draw a card outside of the first card they draw every turn, they draw 1 less or something like that. Then you could play just like more options like that. Mm-hmm. And the other big issue I have with the game is it's very heavily a collector's game and not so much a player's game.
Yeah, honestly, I think that even probably stems from when it first came out. Kids were just getting the Pokemon cards to like have the Pokemon cards. Like when I was a kid, I just opened them with my sister to like have them, right? And they probably saw how much money they were making there.
There's not as much variety as there could be. There's like 700 or 800 Pokemon now, but you know who gets a card every other set? Charizard. Charizard's in every 2 sets.
He's so sick, though. He's a big dragon.
Pikachu, yeah. Pikachu I kind of get more because Pikachu is like...
the brand.
He's the mascot of the game.
Yeah.
But Charizard is like a fully evolved Pokemon, so he either takes up 3 slots in the set because you have to have Charmander, Charmeleon, or Charizard, or he gets one of the Pokemon EX or Pokemon V, I think they're called now, or one of the tag teams, and he gets to be one of the big flashy face cards of the set.
Yeah.
It's because he's cool.
He was cool before I started putting him in everything, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my Pokemon diversity is like a minor nitpick, but the big nitpick I have with diversity stuff is the effect diversity, where a lot of the Pokemon's attacks just...
Oh no, Travis, you cut out. Bryn, can you still talk? Uh-oh, pausing the video. All right, slight audio hiccup, not audio hiccup, internet hiccup, where I lost Travis and Bryn, but we're back. Travis, the last thing I believe you said was that all the Pokemon attacks are, and then you went... Brr.
Oh yeah, they're all like kind of the same, where they're all just like damage plus conditional more damage. You know, they're like, hey, this does 100 damage, then you can discard energies to make it do an extra 100 damage or whatever, something like that. Whereas there's so many other cool, interesting, manipulable variables that they could base attacks on that they just like don't.
Yeah.
A lot of the big flashy cards for cool Pokemon, they just completely phone it in on, and I don't like that.
That's fair. So for me, I really like Legend of the Five Rings, and to me it sits like here. But I want to know what you guys think.
I think like the accessibility
I also really like
this one.
New Legend of the Five Rings.
But like the accessibility on this one is what tanks it for me. Like it's really hard to teach somebody how to play the game.
Yeah, it is pretty intense.
Yeah, where like there's so many like playing against, like if Travis and I play, the game will probably take us maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes. If like 2 new players play, they might be playing for 3 hours. There's like so many things to keep track of and so many decision trees, which are also a good thing.
Yeah.
it's like a big part of what I like about the game. Yeah, I remember when we were first playing this, I go over to your place and we would play, like on a Saturday night, we'd play like 2 games over 4 hours.
Yeah.
I know with
when
me,
we were first learning it.
There's so much that can happen that when we were playing multiplayer, and because I didn't know, I was like, I'm just going to do this, and I'm probably going to get thwarted somehow, but I don't know better. But like, the amount of the decision trees, as you said, Bryn, the amount of decisions you can make in this game is crazy fun, right? Like, it's a very engaging game.
Yeah, like
I think the biggest thing with that is like there's no max hand size.
Yeah.
So you can end up in situations where you and your opponent both have like 15 cards in hand, and you're just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you both have 15 cards, and
around?
your cards cost 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no, that part is a little tough.
That being said, I really, really like the feat mechanic in this game.
Yes, it's sick. The how you can overpay to have people stay longer, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
What about with the original?
Also, none of your cards are... The original, we haven't played quite as much, and Bryn and I haven't played it in a little while, but I think flavorfully it's better. Mm-hmm. Mechanically, it's worse, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is like kind of similar to Magic, except you have to like buy your lands, and then your lands produce gold and stuff.
Yeah.
It's always like, it's super punishing to lose one of your provinces early, because that also cuts your card production.
Mm-hmm.
You get like 1 less card, to play every turn. But there are a lot of really cool, flavorful things in that game. Just flavor text on the cards. Bryn will bring up shortly here, I'm sure.
Sure.
But also, like, you had archers who had ranged attacks, and there's melee attacks, and there's people who do duels, and then you can win political wins. You can do a philosophical win, or an enlightenment win, that's what it's called, where you get all 5 of the rings into play. And then you have unique kinds of magic that only monks can cast, or that only certain mages can cast. You have characters from certain clans that will only join their clan, but sometimes they'll join another clan if you pay an additional cost or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I played this ages ago. I don't remember much of it, and I'm pretty sure the guy who taught me taught me wrong. So I'm cool with wherever you guys want to put it.
Yeah, like I do find this game like it's incredibly punishing if you lose a combat early, because at the end of a combat, all of the losers' guys are killed, but the winners' guys aren't.
Oh, eat a loser.
So like, if you lose an early combat, or even just like a decisive one, like you're in big trouble. Like you're not winning the game now.
It does put a lot of
So
like that's part of the flavor for me though, is that it puts a lot of weight on combat as well.
yeah, like you don't want to just be attacking things because you can.
Yeah, you don't just
You wanna
don't just
make
send
sure
your
you
guys
can
out to
win.
go die frivolously.
Yeah. Like Travis was saying, the flavor. So not every ability, but many of the legendary characters in the game, like the important guys, not the small grunt guys, their abilities have flavor text telling you why they do what they do. Like there's a ninja who has an ability that says he snaps his opponent like a twig, and then you just kill that guy.
It's accurate.
Yeah,
And there's like a cavalry commander who has text that's like about how she outflanks her opponent, and then you get to like shrink their ability.
So there's like a reason,
So that's kinda
flavorful
cool.
reason for
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah,
Something
it's not
else
just
I really
like
like about-
do the thing.
Something else I really like about this game is every character is named.
Yeah.
They're all like individual people from like different families, as opposed to just being like generic mook.
Yeah, definitely.
You got like generic guy too. Like there's house guards and whatnot that you can attach, but you always need to have like one of your clan characters.
Yeah, those
As
guys are
like
followers. They're like
commander
their
of the
own card type.
Yeah.
They're more like enchantments in Magic or like upgrades from Arkham than they are their own characters, kind of.
So where do you guys
Yeah,
want
no,
to put
I
it?
think it's I like it a little bit more than Yu-Gi-Oh, I think.
Okay, cool. Well, this one,
Like the rules are pretty solid, but it's a good game for what it is. Yeah, that can go straight to the top.
yeah, we're not
here
going to
for.
say much more. We have like multiple playlists, hours and hours of our life dedicated to this game. We love Arkham Horror, the card
Yeah.
game. It's an S tier. I like it more than Magic easily. It's great.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Netrunner, I also really like. This was in our pre-discussion that it also is an S tier game, and I agree. I've only played a little bit, but the design on this game is incredible.
Yeah.
It's like
It's-
it's probably the most fun player v player game I've ever played. The mechanics are just so good.
Yeah. It's and it's so flavorful as well, while also, and it's so different. It's because it's asynchronous, which is super awesome in a card game, right? And the board state is so much different than any other card game in this list. It's crazy. It's awesome. Albeit maybe
Yeah.
Duel Masters or World of Warcraft are like it. I don't know. I've never played them, so
Nope, they are not. Those are like almost. They're like kind of crappy versions of Magic.
Yeah, the only thing that sucks about Netrunner is that Fantasy Flight lost the license to it because they were renting it from Wizards of the Coast.
yeah.
And Wizards of the Coast, controlled by Hasbro now, is like, hold on, this game is a card game like the one we produce.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because Fantasy Flight were doing good things with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
was
really
like
cool.
genuinely brilliant game.
Yeah,
Ashes.
maybe one day we'll go back to that with like I don't know, some sort of create your own standard or something.
Yeah, I also am like curious. Like when I was making this list, I was wondering how many of these exist on something like Tabletop Simulator because the games aren't in print anymore. You can't exactly buy them and play them. But I imagine if you get good quality scans, you could play them on Tabletop Simulator and have a great time with them. Right? That could be.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure there's some communities that are devoted to that.
Yeah. Ashes. I've played this a few times with Patrick. Not Patrick. Sorry, Travis. This guy I'm talking to right now. And I thought it was okay. I did not like it too much. I think it's below Yu-Gi-Oh for me.
I think that the base game is like I also think it's below Yu-Gi-Oh. It's definitely not a bad game. I don't feel like I have to experience it fully. The dice rolling I think is really cool, but also sometimes frustrating, where
Yeah.
you just roll poorly and then you're like, cool, I don't get to play this turn. You know, like it doesn't happen very often. They are built-in options to mitigate that kind of thing, but sometimes, like, if you have a bad roll and your opponent has a great roll, you're just like so far behind.
Yeah.
The art in that game is gorgeous.
Yeah, I like the
turns
world building the
themselves-
game has. And like the theme of it is really cool.
Yeah.
I think
I found that the turns themselves are like a little bit overwhelming though. Just from the amount of stuff you can do, you have like an action and a bonus action, and the symbols for them are like they're different, but they're like vaguely similar, and sometimes it's really easy to forget what's a bonus action, what's a real action, and there's just a lot.
I believe it is also now discontinued, so you might be able to find the packs for pretty cheap.
They actually they put up like a Kickstarter for it, and they got enough funding that they're making it again.
Oh, sick! That's awesome. Then put it. I mean, that is a good that is a way, because like people don't understand that like Plaid Hat Games is just a game studio. They're not like Fantasy Flight, which is like the big owned by Asmodee, right? So like it's a huge game studio.
There's a lot of money behind it.
But a lot of game studios are really tiny, so sometimes they need to see that the interest is there in order to make it, and I support that, and that's awesome that there's fans that wanted more Ashes and they got it. That's great to hear. Doesn't change my day, but I am happy for those people. I've never played Hecatome, but I love the name.
So, like, flavor-wise and art direction-wise, and even like not game design, but like the way that the cards work, this game is an S.
Yeah, that
Gameplay?
like that single mechanical decision is like super cool.
Yeah.
How functional is it?
Oh yeah, this is like low CD because of like how it actually plays. I
Yeah,
think,
so it's
to
like
make
quite
it-
similar to Magic in terms of like resource system and stuff. And then how it works is the cards are made of like plastic, and they're pentagrams or pentagons.
Pentagons.
And then so they have the art in the middle, and they'll have an effect within the art at the bottom of it, and then they have one of the 5 sides filled in with a strength, and then sometimes another effect. Yeah, you can pull up one of the pictures of it if you want. And then you can build creatures by laying them on top of each other, and because the other 4 sides are clear, you can see the stats underneath, and they make a cumulative monster.
The Great Cthulhu.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, he's not an actual monster. He's one of the gods, which are like they're like static enchantments, kind of.
Interesting.
I did really enjoy, again, like the flavor. They integrate all kinds of like gods and monsters and cryptids and just folk tales and all kinds of really cool stuff. How it played, cards are impossible to shuffle. Can't find deck boxes that fit. Can't find card boxes that fit. Can't find sleeves for it.
Yeah, and like the game also is like very tempo oriented. Like if you fall behind, you are probably not catching up.
Great.
Yeah. I think it'd be a pretty good
does,
multiplayer game if we had the opportunity, but
Yeah, it does have a minion called the Elevator.
Well, I would play this if you supplied the cards one day. I would play the heck out of it.
I have a bunch of them still, I think.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Seems like a great time.
Maybe we can drag it over for next Halloween or something.
Should we put it at low C? That's what we're thinking?
Yeah.
It's probably worse than Ashes, just because also the cards sometimes they can slice your fingers if you're not careful.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, they are like that. They are pretty hard plastic.
Lord of the Rings, the card game. I really like this game. I think it's A tier for me. High A, personally. Bryn and I are playing it right now, and I'm having a great time with it.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it, you should go check out our progression quest.
Yeah. I think we're still uploads right now. We still haven't beaten those dang trolls. So
Trolls are tough.
they're tough. I love the flavor of this game. You could definitely see how Arkham Horror learnt so much from Lord of the Rings, the card game. Like the designers probably spent a lot of time, if they're not designers from Lord of the Rings, like working with the designers from Lord of the Rings to like what have we learned from this time. The only thing that I do wish it had that is keeping it from S tier for me personally is the fact that there's like no story progression, which Arkham Horror has, which is what makes it so exciting and engaging to play. But Lord of the Rings has that kind of puzzle aspect that Arkham Horror, the card game, doesn't, because you can't just change your deck to meet a scenario's requirements, which has been really fun with Bryn after we lose, being like, okay, so what can we change to our decks to make us win this time?
Yeah, what exploded us? What do we do about it? Kind of thing. I find the setup for it like a little awkward.
Yeah, and there's some things like build the island deck that like you could like put over, make it like so reasonably it's probably here.
That's like the thing that like keeps it out of the S tier for me. It's like just like putting the game together to play is like a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played the least
and also
of
the
three
core
of
set
us.
structure. I hate the core set structure. To buy 3 core sets, that's trash.
That is garbage.
Yeah.
I hate that part. But everything else about the game is like pretty cool.
Yeah, having played it the least, I think that is definitely a good game. I definitely deserves an A tier. I think that it is right to sit below Magic though. The biggest thing I don't like about it is it's a huge, like you guys talked about the puzzle aspect being a plus from your side, but I think it's incredibly annoying to be incentivized. Like, so the scenarios have like a narrative connection, but I find it frustrating to, if I wanted to play the game, to be incentivized to go back to my collection and change my deck between each of them, as opposed to be able to just like sit down with a deck and play through the entire thing.
Yeah. Like,
I'm not a fan of that personally. That's not necessarily a objective point against it. It's just something I don't like.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's honestly, it's why I prefer Arkham Horror, the card game. I like the one deck that builds as opposed to what Lord of the Rings has. But I have been enjoying that part more. But we also have we have stipulations. I imagine that's going to become less exciting when we have a full collection to build with. And it's just like, well, I don't really want to do this.
Right now, like we have a very small pool of cards that we can play.
Yeah. Killer Bunnies. I don't like this game.
Specifically, and the quest for the magic carrot, because there's multiple Killer Bunnies games.
Yeah, this is also my D tier.
Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong that I'm thinking the right game. This game, I believe I've played this once, and one player wins if they have the magical carrot at the end, right?
Yeah.
And the magical carrot is determined randomly?
That's not fun.
And like it's determined randomly, right? If I remember correctly, because I just won because...
By the rules, yes. There's a smaller deck of cards, you shuffle them together, and then you pick out a carrot, and whoever has that carrot wins the game.
Yeah, it's garbage.
That is pretty trash. Actual gameplay is like pretty okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Getting to the end.
It's a funnish party game.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a funnish party game, but compared to like all this other competitive stuff, I think it's very weak in like that aspect.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, it's fun once in a while you pull it out and you're like, oh my god, you used a flamethrower on my Dalek bunny. Right? Or like, but then Spider Bunny show up to save him. Incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, it's stupid stuff like that. It's fun to pull out once in a while, but like as an actual game, it's not so good.
I also have a hard time getting into a game where I don't know if I'm going to win because I rolled the dice properly or if it's because of my own decisions.
Oh yeah, like that game, I always house rule the carrots at something else at the end. I've been toying around with different options the few times I've played it, but a few times I played it recently, but yeah, Game of Thrones.
I think it's good. I don't think it's an A tier, but I think it's in B tier. I enjoy playing it. I like playing it with you guys. I feel like there's a lot more for us to tap into once I get because I've been slowly building the collection. But overall, it just feels a bit kind of, I don't get it yet. Right, so to me, it's a B tier, maybe even below YuGiOh.
Out of Fantasy Flight's, their LCG, this is probably my least favorite that I've played because it doesn't have the mechanical. It's not like as mechanically strong as Netrunner or as narratively strong as Arkham or Lord of the Rings, and it doesn't have the the flavor and the story behind it doesn't draw me in like Legend of the Five Rings does.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like not quite good enough in all the aspects.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, like deck building is incredibly narrow.
Mhm.
I find because like you pick a faction and you're just not allowed to play cards from like other factions really.
Mhm.
Like I guess you kind of can, but
There are also
We didn't delve
multiple.
too deeply
Yeah.
into that.
yeah, we also had like a fairly small collection the couple of times that I've played this game.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I definitely have more
That
deck building
likely
options
impacts
now,
it.
but completely. Like it just doesn't feel like you can do as much.
Yeah,
So
like
to
you
me,
kind of
it's
sit
like-
down and you're like, I want to play these guys, and these are the cards that I get.
Yeah, to me, it's low B tier. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I do
Something- yeah,
appreciate
that's-
being able to play the Night's Watch and
Yeah.
just sitting in your fortress and being like, your opponent's like, no, you can't win the game by doing nothing, and you're like, I'm sorry, I don't recognize your authority, and side four kick ass.
I do think it has some of my favorite aspects of multiplayer play. Like with Legend of the Five Rings, the stuff's there, but you can tell like it was added in later. Game of Thrones, especially in 4-player, I've played a 4-player once, really does feel like you're sitting around a table and scheming with other people. That is really nice about it.
I think we could bump up above YuGiOh. I think the resource system is like pretty solid in that game.
Sick.
And
Sick.
yeah, like the flavor is okay, but as a general rule, if I wanted to immerse myself in the Game of Thrones universe, I would just read the books.
Yeah, yeah. World of Warcraft, the trading card game. I've not played this one.
So this is basically Magic, but you have like a hero that's you, and you can give him weapons, armor, and stuff.
Sick.
The one big thing this game has going for it is when they were producing it, they put out, this is a fun card game, by the way, for many years. They were putting out raid decks where you had like one player who would play like Molten Core, and they get to play as all the bosses from like Ragnaros's dungeon, and all the other players played versus them.
Sick.
And they also included like special premium booster packs in those with unique cards and like legendary equipment, like Sulfuras for the
that you got as
you got
a
to open up at the end.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that aspect of it is really cool, but other than that, I feel like it's a worse Magic. I would put it in B tier below Yu-Gi-Oh.
Cool. I'm kind of
But yeah,
hands
like the
up
raid
on that
thing
one.
was super cool, but just
Duel Masters.
Okay, so this one also like Magic, but with less instant speed interaction. No lands. You can play your cards upside down as mana instead. And then the only like color cost change there is like if you're playing a green card, at least one of the mana you're spending has to be green, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a couple cool mechanics, and this card game got rebranded. It failed in the West, got rebranded as Kaiju and released again. But it's been going strong in Japan, I believe, and Wizards of the Coast actually basically uses it as a testing ground for mechanics for Magic,
Sick.
where they had like double face cards, and they actually have like cards that have multiple parts and stuff. Years before those have gotten to Magic, like you can see the meld cards that were in Eldritch Moon. Those were released a couple years before, or something similar was released a couple years before in Duel Masters.
Cool.
They actually have cards that like unfold in
Yeah, I actually
multiple parts.
freaking have. Here, 1 second. Let me show everyone
So
at
it's
home what
pretty
Travis
wild.
is talking about. So this is Ant-Man
Like I
from
promise I'm not lying.
the Champions, and it opens up into Giant Ant-Man. I remember I was looking at this card, and Julie came, and she was like, "That's a big card," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is." They do exist. He's not just talking.
like-
he's not talking out of a fever dream.
It's a cool game, but at the end of the day, it's just another one of them worst Magic games. Yeah, probably below. I think it belongs. So one hand, it's like definitely more successful than World of Warcraft, Ashes, and Hecatome. Fun and like the mechanics that they put in it are cool.
Mhm.
But it probably deserves to be higher than Hecatome and Ashes. Yeah.
I played Harry Potter briefly, so this is another one I'm going to pass the ball to someone else.
That's me. So yeah, this one like was very briefly came out in like the early 2000s, along with all the other Harry Potter trends when the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, depending on where you are, movie came out.
Depending on where you
The-
are in the world.
Yeah, the game suffered from some balance issues. Like, Care of Magical Creatures was the best sort of color you could play because, like, having actual monsters that were good was super important. When you could just like,
Because they were hard to kill.
yeah, you could just beat the piss out of other people's monsters.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about this game is there's a really unique health design where your health is like your deck, and when you take damage, you mill cards from your deck.
It's one I
And
didn't
then-
include on this, but there's a WWE trading card game which I did play, which has the exact same thing as well.
So yeah, it's just like a cool game. I like the art style for it a lot. It's very like, I actually really like a lot of the art style for the Harry Potter stuff before the movies became so ubiquitous and the characters were
Now it's just
they
Daniel
just, like, are
Radcliffe
the
on a
actors.
card. Yeah.
where they had their own stuff. But I think it's a pretty good game. I would put it. It probably goes like. Actually, no. Where it is probably fine. Actually,
Cool.
Yeah.
like there's some nice stuff about
Yeah.
it, but it does suffer from an incredibly limited card pool.
Okay, so before
And like
we
I said, there's some balance issues with the Care of Magical Creatures.
before we get to the
I agree.
oh,
Your
sorry.
your opponent would play like Fluffy or something, and you'd be like, "Holy shit! I can't do anything." And they'd be like, "I know. Take 9."
Oh, good job, Fluffy.
This is
Yeah, and you just be like, "Yep,
"Hmm."
yep. I can never actually kill this, so like we're gonna sit here and I'm gonna wait for it to kill me."
Yep.
All right, before we get to the digital card games, let's finish up the rest of the paper card games. So Chaotic is another one that I honestly I can't fathom at all what it is. With Hecatome, I was like, this is cool. They're pentagons. That's awesome. With
Okay,
Duel
so
Masters,
for
I was like,
K-
I know this one is in Japan and like it's WotC and like it's very popular over there. With this one, you put a gun to my head and I could not tell you anything about it.
So this is one of those card games where they were like, "We've got a TV show and we want to use it as a vehicle to sell this,"
Okay, yeah.
or vice versa. You're gonna want to bring up like a picture of what the board looks like
The
for
board?
this one. Yeah. It's pretty integral to the game. One cool thing about this is like characters had 4 stats, and whenever you opened,
What
whenever you got like a card with those stats, the stats were actually randomized within a certain range for each character. So you can have the same character and they would have different stats. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basic gist of the game is you have your guys, you give them their equipment and their like magic spells or whatever, and then you can like challenge guys who are adjacent. You're trying to get rid of all your opponent's guys.
Oh, okay, I see, like that. This is actually in a Tabletop Simulator mod, so you can play this in Tabletop Simulator. Because I'm going to go out on a limb and say this card game is probably out of print.
Absolutely. You'd be right.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think this one can go down the D tier, especially since they had some massive balance issues with one of the new clans in their last release, if I'm not incorrect. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
like
would.
the
I would
idea
play
is
Carabiner
really
over
cool.
this. Sorry,
But the idea is really cool.
it is.
But like it just doesn't like it is
It
clearly a
doesn't
game
translate
that
super well.
yeah it was made to be like it was in the TV show. And maybe that's not so great.
Yeah, it's like they show them an episode of TV show, and then they're like, "Yeah, you got to figure out how you can play this in real
Yeah.
life," and they were
Yeah.
like,
Make it a card game.
And they're like,
Yeah,
oh,
but in the TV
God.
show, the reason the guys had different stats is because they go out into like you go through like a teleport to the world they live in, and then they like, take pictures of them. So if they're like injured, it's easier to get a picture of them, but they're
But also like
injured, so
shitty and
that's-
injured. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if you get one like where he just like finishes work up for the day and he's all juiced up, then he's gonna be like, the card's gonna be really strong, but also he's gonna try and kill you. And then like when they play against other players, they like actually transform into that character,
Super sick.
and then they get to fight the other guy. It's kind of cool concept. Doesn't translate so well to a game. Yeah.
So the Dragon
Yeah.
Ball Z card game, I remember playing this a bunch when I was in junior high school, and it was fun. I had a orange energy Cell deck, which was super sick because Cell was cool, but I don't remember how good it was. I feel like it's for me in this group. Has anyone else? I know Travis hasn't. Bryn, did you play Dragon Ball Z card game at all?
No, I did not.
Cool. I'm just going to leave it here. Also, people might be being like, where's Keyforge? We have not played Keyforge yet, but I have good news. We will be playing Keyforge eventually because due to stock issues, or maybe the expansion wasn't good, but they were selling cases of Keyforge second expansion on Board Game Bliss for $2.50
Oh my god.
at Christmas.
Oh
So
my
I
lord.
bought 2 boxes. So we have a lot of decks to play with when the time comes. So
Flashing out that big board game stream money.
yeah.
My
Call of
guys
Cthulhu
went
card game?
750.
This is an out-of-print living card game. I think it is fun. It's cool. The flavor is nice. The art is horrible. I think it feels for me right here. I think it's below Yu-Gi-Oh.
The only thing I know about this one, besides the IP, is it comes with these sick like Cthulhu statues.
Cthulhu statues. Do I have one that I can reach? Not in within reach. No, but the game is neat, and it's another 1v1 game, and like the whole thing is like there's like an aspect where there's like if I remember correctly, like stories that you have to meet and like fight. They're like zones that you battle in other card games, which is actually very similar to Conquest, which I also feel for me is like down here as well. I think I like Conquest more than Call of Cthulhu, the card game, but they're kind of like out-of-print living card games that are fun, but not nearly as good as some of their other ones. Legend of the Five Rings is leagues better than these two.
I put Conquest above those two as well, not having played Call of Cthulhu, the card game, because you can be Ragnar Blackmane.
Yes.
And he's sick.
We are planning, I do actually have a good chunk of the Conquest cards. We do plan on recording some content of that in the future.
Can I play Tyranids yet?
No, it's out of print, and they were was not able to snatch those ones. Marvel Champions. Travis and I have played this briefly. I've been doing a solo series on my channel, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. But it is missing that certain something for me that keeps it out of this tier. I don't know what it is. I think it's just because, honestly, I've only played like the stuff from the core box, and it just kind of, it feels the same each time you play it. And there's a much better solo game, cooperative game you can play in their LCG collection. It does get better with the more cards I add, but it's still just, to me, high B tier. It could eventually get on A tier for me, but right now it's on B tier.
Personally, I haven't played nearly as much of it as you have. I would put it below Legend of Five Rings. For me, if you want to keep it up there, that's fine, though. Like, you've played more of it than me.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely agree with the seaminess that you said, where I definitely had a fun time running around blasting people as Iron Man once you're all suited up and you're just, like, lasering people down. But every game is just, like, a race to get those. Or it's not so much you have the same end goal, it's just, like, a lot of turns have the same play pattern.
Yeah, and I think it does a fantastic job of giving you the game feel of playing that hero. Like, as Travis says, suiting up as Iron Man and blasting the shit out of people is so fun. There are expansions that are, I don't have them yet, but they're like story-based expansions, so I'm excited to try those and see how they change the game. But you could definitely tell that it's like they wanted to do something nice and simple and clean with the IP, and I think with that they succeeded. But I think it's good.
There's no big risk they took or anything like that. It's very, very accessible.
Yeah, and I think it's good, but to me, not great. Not yet, anyway. Okay, digital card games. So, Travis said if I wanted to include these, and I do, because I feel like digital card games are like the future of collectible card games in the 90s. Now, everyone can make a digital card game and release it. So why don't we talk about these guys? So, of this list, am I the only one who's played Eternal?
I have not played Eternal. I've played all the game.
I think Eternal is...
I know the gist of Eternal,
yeah,
but I have not played it.
I think Eternal is good. To me, it's a high B tier game. Probably below Marvel Champions if I had to put it with these other games. There's a lot of cool things. The economy is pretty good, but you need 4 of your legendaries in a deck, and the economy is actually what dictates the goodness for a lot of these card games for me. If you want to be free to play or pay a little to play, what it gives you is very important, and Eternal is very good on that, but their deck sizes are huge, and the number of legendaries you'll potentially need for them is also huge. But it is a lot better.
You're putting Hearthstone in the trash bin, right?
We're going to put Hearthstone, and it's going to be lower, but did you see what they just announced coming up in the next season change?
No, I don't pay attention to anything Hearthstone related these days.
So with Hearthstone, they're now doing a core set where every player gets 235 cards for free each year. That changes, so they'll always have access to the core set, which is pretty sweet. They're just giving you the whole set for free.
They must be really feeling the pressure.
Which is good. Like, that's why competition is good.
Yeah.
I do think Hearthstone is above a C tier, but I think it's low B tier.
Oh man, I was gonna put Hearthstone in like D tier, maybe bottom of C tier.
I
think it's like high C tier personally.
Sure. We can't kind of like meet.
Having not played it particularly recently, but there was always like massive balance issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the general lack of ability to interact with your opponent's stuff. Like if you wanted to do something on their turn, you had to tell them that you might want to do it. It's like, hey, I might want to counter the first spell you play, and they're like, cool, first spell I play is going to be garbage.
That is true. The lack of
figured me out.
Being able to interact with your opponent is really rough.
Yeah, and stuff just being like blatantly broken. Like there was one season where you were playing Hunter or you were losing to Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And they just don't do anything about it because they didn't care. Yeah. And like that's pretty much like a constant, right? Or was a constant at least while I was still playing. It may have gotten better in the intervening space, but I haven't played this game for about 3 years.
Well, now it's Demon Hunter.
I played the shit out of Hearthstone. I have golden portraits for every class, and I played this game a lot, and I don't think it's good.
I do think that to me, I'll always have that nostalgia for the Whispers of the Old Gods to Ungoro release for Hearthstone as some of my favorite card gaming I've done. There was just a lot of sick, fun shit, and it's a slot machine. You pull the slot and hope that Saran just fucking nukes the opponent before he nukes himself.
Or you.
Or you, yeah. But I do think that, for what it is, I think, even though it's not a great game, I do think Hearthstone deserves the success it had, because it was, it's just that thing that Blizzard does well, right? With, also with, Heroes of the Storm, where it's just, simple, easy, stupid fun, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
but the
it
monetization
also was, the first of the... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the monetization when I played sucks. Like Travis, I had a lot, and I would buy golden cards because I wanted my golden Death Knight Gul'dan, which, you gotta have if you love Warlock. Apparently there's been changes to it, and the new core set thing does seem pretty great for players, but it is rough on the monetization part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something they should have done years ago.
Definitely, 100%.
To me, the thing that's keeping this out of the D tier is its primacy. It was the first successful digital card game, really, that didn't have a physical counterpart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Legends of Runeterra.
Right, the top.
Yeah. Legends of Runeterra is just kind of sick.
Yeah.
There's
It is very good.
There's infinite counterplay between you and your opponent. Even when neither of you can actually do something, you have to be thinking about what the other guy could do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there's a lot of bluff potential. You get to do things all the time. There is never a window that your opponent gets to do something, and you just have to sit there and watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there has.
Well,
there's definitely metas where your opponent plays Ezreal and bursts you down.
Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore, though.
Yeah, they've been working them out of the game slowly.
Yeah. The monetization for this game is sweet.
Oh yeah.
I paid like $10 to buy Anivias to play Zombie Anivia for a while because I didn't want to wait 2 weeks to be given the Anivias for free.
Yeah, it's I don't think you can. I don't think we can say like to a full extent to really explain how good the monetization is in this game.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
free, and it's not like League of Legends so free. It's like actually free.
Yeah, I've put
Yeah.
$20 into the game, which has given me the 2 decks I wanted to play completely, and then I've been earning everything else since then. But like that $20 would go nowhere in all of these other games. It would go nowhere, right? Like you don't see what that does.
Yeah.
But in Legends of Runeterra, your money means so much. And you also earn, like, there is like a locked pace in which you can earn through free to play, right? But
Yes.
that is completely forgiven in terms of how easy it is to acquire cards. And also, and like, then also what the value of your money gives. And then also the fact that they are prioritizing the monetization is on emotes, pets, and boards, right? Like, that's
Yeah,
where they want to
cosmetics.
make their money, which is awesome because then the
Yeah,
game
that's
stays
how
clean.
Riot sells their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we get every I think it's 3 weeks we get a balance patch which addresses whatever issues there were in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Like if a card's outperforming, they just tune its numbers down.
And that's
Sometimes
also
they buff cards.
yes, they do.
Yeah, if
Who
cards
does
aren't
that?
being played, they make them better.
and also like unlike Eternal, unlike Magic, unlike Hearthstone, they don't need to fill packs with garbage. Where like there are cards that like aren't great. The amount of good cards to unplayable cards, or at least passable cards, is so much bigger in Legends of Runeterra, right? Like you
Yeah,
can see
there's
a card and you
definitely
can be
some
like, I
cards
feel
have
like
been-
this can find a home in a place, right?
Yeah, like some cards have been outclassed over time, but as a general, like probably 80% of the cards I would look at and I'd be like, yeah, I could see myself playing this in a deck.
Yeah, yeah. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about that recently came with Legends of Runeterra, where they have a solo mode, which is kind of like a roguelike Slay the Spire kind of idea, where you build your deck with and upgrade your cards over time. And they nerfed it, the XP, to make it so that you would earn less. But then the fans complained, as fans do, they love to scream. But then Riot actually changed it back. Not completely, but still a point where it was giving out great experience for solo play. And in their tweet, they had the message that said, we want you to be able to play our game the way you want to play it, right? And you will never see any of these other companies doing that. And it blew my mind. Like, it's such a good, like, for the consumer. So much so
Yeah,
that,
I would
like,
be careful about that kind of thing, Justin. That's a common tactic. That it might be like, if they don't have a history of doing it, it might be fair, but like it's pretty common for companies to, like, massively increase. So say you're selling something for $5, they increase the price to $10, and people go, "Whoa, that's way too much," and then they go, "Oh yeah, we heard your feedback. You're right. We'll only sell it for $7."
Oh no, that's completely fair. But this, like, they reverted it to like pretty much exactly what it was. It was like 50 experience less, right? Like it wasn't like it wasn't like
That's fair
a
then.
nerf. It was like pretty much exactly what it was. And I'm just saying, like, in comparison to something like do you think Magic, like, I have some big problems with Magic Arena. They want you to play how they want you to play. You don't get to do what you want in Magic Arena. You don't get to do what you want in Hearthstone.
I'll be
right?
honest, I hate Magic Arena. I try playing it every time I play like one game and I'd be like, man, I am so bored.
And
It's like Magic, but they took out all the fun cards.
And like with what you were just saying, like the tactic that you were just saying is very common in Magic Arena, right? Like they would change something, and like, for example, once they were starting to get to their legacy format, Historic, they announced a thing that was basically saying, hey, it's going to cost you 2 wild cards for every 1 Historic card you want. And then everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, that's stupid. And they eventually went back and said, it's okay. We'll make it so it's just one. But like they've done stuff like that so much with Magic Arena, it blows my mind. So yes, I agree with you, Travis. Never trust a corporation with what they say. But just the fact that they even did it once has given me so much goodwill for them that, like, in addition with everything else that's happened with Legends of Runeterra, I just think it needs to be shouted out that it's a good program and they care about their players to an extent, much more than.
Oh yeah, no, they do a great job of that. Mm-hmm. No, I really really appreciate especially the community engagement that they do.
Mm-hmm. To me,
Arena can go down the C tier somewhere. Yeah, it's like slightly better than her.
I think it's better than Hearthstone.
But like, it can probably be better than Duel Masters is actually Magic. So
yeah, I just think that there's so much limiting you. Like I play Arena, like I do. It's the best way to draft new sets for free right now for me. But it's only a draft. It's a draft machine, and I do play Brawl in it. And that's it. I don't want to play their standards. I don't want to play their historic. You don't get to do everything. You don't get to do things in Magic Arena. You get to do what they tell you to do. And that's not fun.
Yeah, it's like MTGO.
Yeah, like
yeah. MTGO
again,
actually,
without the cool cards, like lightning bolt stuff.
Yeah, like MTGO is like, even though a lot of people like say like it looks awful, it does not look good. But it plays Magic good enough that it is still fun.
Yeah, and its appearance is like very spreadsheety, but it makes the game work.
Yeah.
Yeah, MTGO does look like garbage, but
yeah. Magic the Gathering also has awful monetization, and you see a lot of it. A lot of people tweet about how good Legends of Runeterra is and how bad Magic is, and you always have those people in the comments who are being like, "I have no problem building decks. I just play Magic the Gathering 3 to 4 hours a day every day, and I have what I want." And like, dude, I'm glad for you, but that's not.
Yeah, if I'm playing Magic the Gathering that long, it's because I'm in somebody else's house.
Yeah.
And there's
like preparing for GP or something like that. Not that those exist anymore.
Oh, but not even that. Like maybe just hanging out playing like EDH or whatever for a couple hours.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not for the
something like that.
Digital
like it's not. I'm not showing up to grind standard. That is not happening.
All right, let's burn through these last 3 cards.
You don't want to spend 4 hours to see who can resolve an Uro first?
Yeah.
I do like Legends.
Elder Scrolls Legends. It's pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good.
It's out of print now. I think it's probably like high C.
I think it could be like low B.
Sure. Yeah, they don't make it anymore. And apparently, so the downside is, with Legends as you come in now, the last set they made had a completely unbalanced mechanic that has ruined the game, essentially. With that is now like the only meta deck that can like just beat everything. So that's an unfortunate way they left it. For a long time, it was designed by the same guys who made Eternal, but then it was sold to another company, or Bethesda switched it to another company rather. And then that company, it just ended up being shut down through that. But the concept and the 2 lanes is really, I like that. I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, like that was a really cool gimmick. I liked this almost generic fantasy flavor up. It was really nice. The animations were like sleek without being garish. Garish, how do you pronounce that? I like the deck building for it. For the most part, there's a while where they had some issues with combo decks that just made you actually sit there for 5 minutes while they killed you, or they dealt with that relatively quickly. And then things devolved a little bit into good stuff decks with minimal synergies. But overall, it's like, I'd say it's above average.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Duelist. Duelist is a neat little grid-based fighting game, a card game.
Really can't play this one anymore.
Pardon?
Yeah, they took down the servers.
This one's also dead?
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
It's like extra dead. Like, you can still play Elder Scrolls Legends, but you can't play Duelist.
Oh, in that case, like, it spiritually is a D. But I think mechanics, it was like a bit it was like here for me. It was good.
I like this for like the movement and the grids of it. I really like the different classes and their gimmicks.
This is also truly, you can see this with the risk of these digital games, where they could end up just getting shuttered, and then you can lose
Sometimes
it
they
completely.
just don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get nothing back.
And you even could be like, but Magic Arena will never shut down. Magic killed their card game, their digital card game, to get into Magic Arena. And that was like, I remember that was around the Amonkhet time. Like, Magic
Magic's
Arena
been
probably
like
won't
two
go
or three
anywhere.
non-MTGO ones already.
Yeah. Like, yeah, they've been trying to get, I think Magic Arena is probably the one that if I had to put money on is here to stay, but you never know with WotC. They could just do something completely crazy one day.
Yeah. Except MTGO. MTGO will apparently never die.
I think it's because it's kind of, they just accepted it's the way that people can play Legacy and like Vintage. And it's just like, you do that there. You go live in this grounds.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is it doesn't cost them money because they just don't try to fix the bugs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the bugs anyway.
Because a lot of the bugs are like, they're like real obscure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where like no
like
one
if you have
plays
these
the
5
that are
cards in
involved.
play,
Yeah.
and you try to activate this ability twice, it's holding priority, then the game crashes. And it's like, okay, but don't do that.
Yeah, just don't.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Gwent, I like Gwent. I think I liked it a bit more than Elder Scrolls Legends. It's, to me, the big problem with Gwent is that because there was very little, you had so much control when I played, that all the games kind of ended up feeling the same. But I do think the game is really good.
I liked it less than Elder Scrolls Legends personally, but
sure, I'll do it. I'm not gonna. I have no emotional attachment to Gwent. I played it fun for a bit. It's probably the best game from what I remember, after Legends of Runeterra for its monetization.
this is true.
But I don't play it anymore.
Yeah, I didn't play that one too much. I wasn't a huge fan of the mechanics. I didn't like have anything there's no like specific complaints really. They just didn't click with me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's because it's just like, but it's not
It's a
like
fine game. Just
yeah, I like it more than Duelist. I like Magic more than Gwent, as you can see here. But for a digital offering, Gwent is better than Magic Arena.
mm-hmm.
But what you all should learn is go play Arkham Horror, find a copy of Netrunner, even though it's out of print, and then go play Legends of Runeterra, and you'll have a great weekend ahead of you.
There's actually people who still support Netrunner with their own fan-created expansions that you can order.
Dude, that's sick. That is sick.
Or I'm not sure if you can actually order the cards, but they have like all the high-quality scans and stuff, their own sets.
So you could feasibly print your own.
Yeah, you could print your own Netrunner set if you wanted to.
Yeah, sick.
Which, like, I would recommend. Multiplayer we haven't tried, which was like it's just like it's such a good 1v1 game. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Sick. Well, that is us ranking all of the card games we have played that we remember playing. I'm sure there's more that we've probably played once in our life, but we don't remember because I don't know.
There was an awful Arcane Tin Men one, the guys who make Dragon Shield. They had a card game for a bit that Travis and I think we played twice.
The Spoils.
Yeah, and then abandoned because it was kind of garbage.
Sick.
Yeah, it's like Magic, except your guys, sometimes they were slower than the other guy's guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to attack and was dead.
Yeah. And there's also...
There were like multiple layers of first strike.
Yeah, but they were like cat bankers, and that was pretty cool.
There also is a lot of digital... I try pretty much every digital card game that comes out, but there's like some that you just don't put on this list because like, you know... But I think this is a pretty good representation. Do you agree or disagree in the comments? Please let us know and what you think. I honestly have no complaints about this list. I think it's frickin' killer. I think we nailed it. We'll see you guys very soon for another exciting video on our channel and probably more Arkham content until we or it die. Whatever comes first. See ya.
Probably more Arkham content.
Yeah.